welcome back to the 1% Show. If you're new here, tune in to hear me spin the yarns with authors, savants, and eccentric humans every week. Today on the 1% Show...
got offered several jobs. One was selling fruit with the blinds. It was crazy. And then another was actually a local porn scene that they wanted me to be in. In America, with the government, there's tons of conspiracies about, Illuminati and banks and all this stuff. And like, there's almost some cigar-filled room where there's like 5 people wringing their hands and like... there's like gambling and hookers in the background and they like control the shots. And like, I don't think that actually exists.
Next question. What are your morning rituals, Clark?
Good question. I've been experimenting with having 0.
What the hell? Okay, I want to hear more.
Yeah.
Big bullfighting YouTube channels. The next thing we do is go to the video.
Brandon, this method's bullshit.
What are you on about?
I'm your Aussie host, Brandon Nankivell, and it's time to kick back and enjoy the show. Let's go. This episode is brought to you by Synctuition. Synctuition is truly groundbreaking audio technology that helps to increase the power of your intuition by utilizing realistic 3D sound during 60 amazing binaural beat journeys. You can download the journeys straight to your phone with their app. I've been in touch with the guys behind Synctuition, particularly Romit Prizman, the Synctuition ambassador. I had my doubts about the science behind the technology, but Romet quickly addressed them for me with an extensive 67-page up-to-date document with over 100 references. With that said, your best bet is to try it yourself. Head to bit.ly/SynctuitionOPB to download your first 2 tracks free directly to your phone. Again, that's bit.ly/SynctuitionOPB. Use the gift card code 1% better at checkout to get $50 discount.
1, 2, 3. Okay, I just said 1, 2, 3. Now I want you to say 1, 2, 3 for me, Clark.
4, 5, 6.
I love this audio test. Someone always says something like, not all the time, but every now and then you get someone like you who says something like completely crazy. It's just hilarious. So welcome back, listeners, to the 1% Show. Today we have Clark Kegley. Now, Clark, he's posted 244 videos on his main channel. He's accumulated 83,000 YouTube subscribers. He's collaborated with entrepreneur Evan Carmichael. And Clark, you're also the founder of Kegley & Co. So please correct me if I'm wrong here, Clark.
No, you're good, man. What's up?
Yeah, sweet as. So I'm glad I got it right. Clark, we wanna go through some shit today, particularly in the self-development scene. And I know you've got a lot of strengths in the YouTube scene. You know a few things about journaling, that's for sure, based on what I've come across. And I also have some like Tim Ferriss like questions for you at the end of the podcast. So overall, I think this is, we're going to have a fun time. So how are you feeling right now?
We're going to have a blast, man. I'm looking forward to it. I've known you for probably a year now, just virtually. And it's good to finally put a face to the name and meet you in person as close as we get.
Yeah, dude. So this is going to be really laid back. And I think that's how my listeners listening in right now love it. That's how I love it. And it's how we roll here. So, we're going to jump straight into it.
Did you bring the beer, Brandon? Or was that my job?
No, I forgot that. I'm sorry about that.
Should have shipped it over here 2 weeks ago.
All right, bro. Let's get into it. So, Clark, in your own words, who are you and what is it that you do?
Yeah, it's always a funny question to answer at like cocktail parties, or you run into someone you haven't seen in like 5 years and they do that whole "what are you up to these days?" They cross their arms, and I have a hard time explaining it because like I just pursue things. Like that's just what it comes down to. Is if I have an idea, I entertain it, and if I still have it in a week, I say let's do it. And it's just kind of led me on this crazy rabbit hole of entrepreneurship and motivation and just all these different 50 projects. My girlfriend would tell you that I'm crazy and like a mad scientist. I mean, half the time I'm putting on aprons and cooking hair products. And then the other half the time I'm editing YouTube videos about sales, marketing, but also about self-development, traveling, growth. And I think when it boils down to, I mean, my whole mission, Brandon, and you know it because you've been on the channel yourself, is just stop settling and start living. And that's just something that just rang true with me really throughout my life. And it's something that I just want to refuse to settle. And so that's my main thing now, is just inspiring others that these limitations you have, or if you want something, refuse to settle and go get it, and don't be afraid to pursue your passions, because they're not crazy. And if you don't try anything, you're going to be stuck in the place you're at. So stop settling, start living. It's just kind of my brand. Refusing to settle is just inspiring others as well and taking them on the journey.
Radical. Thanks for that. So take us back to when you were 14 years old, Clark. What was life looking like for you then?
14. That was a fun time. So I'm from Seattle, United States, Washington. So I was in high school playing lots and lots of drums. That was my main passion, music and drums. And I'd say it was, I don't know. I was just dissatisfied with school, like most 14-year-olds, and their teachers. They didn't want to be there. And I always had these big ambitions. And I remember just seeing all these, whether it was celebrities or athletes or actors, and being like, that's the path I want to go down, to get to that level, to where someone, not just the fame or not just the massive success, but here's someone who's actually actualizing on their potential. And how do I reach that? And so I think at 14, I was always looking towards these figures and finding these role models, and these, call them a mentor, call them whatever you want, and trying to learn and soak up as much as them, because I was partially dissatisfied with the school system.
Sure thing. And so when you were, let's say, 18, 19, when you were just coming out of high school, what was the direction of your life looking like?
Yeah, it was similar. I was putting all my eggs in the musician basket and trying to go full force on that, and played drums now for over a decade, and really just had a passion for like underground hardcore music and pop punk and Warped Tour bands and everything like that. And so I kept pursuing that, but everyone told me I had to go to college, because that's what you do, unless if you don't, you're a failure, right? And that's the box people want to put you in. And so I said, all right, I'll try this college thing out. Luckily, my father worked at the university, so I got a huge tuition discount, and cost me a reasonable price. I don't know if I could have done it without that. And so I went to college and studied exercise science, kinesiology, and just kind of pursued things on the side there. Still was doing music, and eventually stumbled across this YouTube channel thing, I think actually at 18. And so I started posting my first video. It wasn't a motivation video, wasn't a book summary, wasn't anything that people, if they've ever seen my channel, would expect. It was a shirtless drum cover of me playing Paramore. And and it was so good, man. It was me, and I wanted to be this fitness trainer at the time, right? Because I had all these wacky passions. So I said, all right, I got this great idea. I'm going to mix my passion for music and drumming with my passion for fitness, and that'll get people inspired. And so I took my shirt off and played Paramore, and just in my garage, and was sweating. And I think that's the most hate I've ever gotten on a video, but I think it might be my proudest one to date. I'm pretty proud of that one.
Right on. I'm just envisioning in my head like fitness and drums. I'm just imagining you running on a treadmill while playing drums.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I think I definitely had some tanning oil on too.
Yeah, right on. So
wouldn't recommend it.
Fair enough. Now, I noticed on your channel, you actually took a trip to Thailand. So in terms of traveling and this whole digital nomad stuff, when did that start becoming a sort of reality and delving into this?
Great question, man. Yeah, I guess where we're at is really relevant, like in the story of college and being kind of dissatisfied there. And in between college semesters, I'm like, well, I'm working 5 jobs just to pay for this school. I can't really afford rent. So I went and worked on farms, and I did WWOOFING, I think it stands for Worldwide Organic Farm Exchange, something along the lines of that. Worked on a few farms, and I was still into YouTube, so I started documenting the process. And this was really before like travel vlogging was a thing. Otherwise, I probably would have done that full time. And so I was documenting it, just documenting everything. And that's one thing, if you're listening right now and maybe you haven't started anything, just document things. And that's your content right there. It's always going to be interesting down the road to see your progression, if not just for yourself. And so even if you don't know what you want to pursue, just start pursuing something, and you get your footing, and you can kind of figure it out along the way. And so I just started documenting that. And then I guess the travel thing came post college and being like, what was that all about? You know, what am I doing with my life? And so I kind of went to Southeast Asia, and not for work reasons, just for fun and to see what it was all about. And went to Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, met some awesome people. If you have an opportunity in your life to do that, do so. It's way cheaper than you think it is. I think the plane ticket from the US was like $800 round trip. And, you know, you've been there yourself. So like $5 a night hostels, dollar meals. I mean, it's just amazing. And the people are awesome. And you meet a lot of cool people over there. So that was definitely a transformative experience in itself.
It's pretty crazy. And were you actually doing the woofing over in Southeast Asia, or was that somewhere else?
That was in Hawaii. So,
dude. Okay, sorry, I missed the Hawaii bit. Now, that is really interesting. I tend to go off on tangents on podcasts, but to me, there's really no such thing as fucking tangents on this podcast because, you know, I just ask people about whatever I'm curious about, and it always leads to something interesting. So I've actually organized and negotiated a woofing deal over in Hawaii for September this year, which makes things really interesting. So I'm curious, like this is actually happening for me. What can you, I'll be on Hilo, the big island.
Yep. That's where I was. Yep.
You're kidding. So what retreat did you woof at?
Yeah, so I went twice, once with a couple buddies and then once by myself. And I think traveling by yourself is really valuable. You get to learn a lot more about you. You get your own time. It's much more solo. Like it's all on you, for better or for worse. And you learn a lot about yourself when you're on your own. But I guess to go straight to your point, I was in Hilo. I'll tell you after the call. I try actually not to give out the farms just because I want to respect their privacy. I've gotten hit up like 50 times by people, and but I'll tell you after, no problem.
Sure. How about, are you able to describe your actual like experience without revealing the location?
Yeah, it was top secret. I can't go in. No.
Ooh.
I would recommend hitchhiking, dude. If you can hitchhike around the whole island, do it. Took me 13 trips, but people are cool. Got offered several jobs. One was selling fruit with the blind. It was crazy. And then another was actually a local porn scene that they wanted me to be in. And
no way.
Turned that one down, but you know, I think they probably saw a few of my drum videos and said, "Hey, let's this guy might be into it."
Wow. Did this just happen on the road in the car trips you took with people or at local bars or what?
Yep. You meet a lot of interesting people when you're putting yourself out there on the road, man, like hitchhiking and just all these things that we're told not to do growing up, right? Like don't talk to strangers, definitely don't hitchhike, at least for me being in America and like Seattle, everyone kind of freezes you out and it's very like stay in your own lane, don't cause too much trouble, anything like that. And I actually found the opposite to be liberating and just putting yourself out there as much as possible, being as vulnerable online to strangers as you can, talking to as many strangers as you can, hitchhiking, getting in their car, not knowing where you're going. So Hawaii was a very safe place to explore and do that still within the comfort of, you know, the US for me. It wasn't technically international, but I mean, the island's just beautiful, man. And you're going from beaches to monsoons, and I got to participate in a cow slaughter with a tribe or natives there. So, I mean, it was just amazing, dude.
Wow, that's incredible. It sounds like an insane learning experience. And for anyone interested in doing the same thing, Clark is actually, we've both interviewed Rolf Potts now, but he's the author of Vagabonding. And that will tell you quite a few things about, I think the subtitle is like The Uncommon Art of Long-Term World Travel. And it's definitely something worth reading to up your game in that domain of traveling. So I'm glad you mentioned like how you can learn so much shit just by traveling by yourself. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, Rolf, his book's awesome. That's a great one. That one, 4-Hour Work Week, kind of were hand in hand the things in college that inspired me to do it. And I know, like yourself, inspire many others. So, yeah, you know, that whole concept of like learning about yourself when you're unplugged from your routines. I think like you get so caught up in this is my life, these are my people, this is my job, I am X, Y, and Z. And when you take all that away, I mean, not to sound like a cliche, but it does make you question, well, what am I actually? And I think solo traveling, that benefit of like going alone is really where that it brings it out of you.
Yeah, that's for sure. And just to touch quickly on the hitchhiking thing, do you have any tips for increasing your chances of getting picked up by any chance?
Yeah, be a woman.
I suppose you've got more things to worry about being a woman, but hey, if it works, why not? I'll just dress up as a woman.
Yeah. No, I think, not to turn everything into a life lesson, but, I journal a lot. And so I think about these things nonstop. And I was reading one from way back years ago when I was doing the hitchhiking thing. And I think that's such a valuable lesson of just getting rejected so many times. And you're putting your thumb out there and you're asking for help, essentially. And people are passing you by. Some people point at you. Some people laugh at you. And you can see it in their face. And they're like laughing at you, pointing, driving by. And that just like toughens you up. It just says, hey, you know what? People are going to stare. They're going to laugh, whatever. Let them do it. And just keep putting yourself out there and get as many no's as you can. It eventually leads you to more yeses. And when you're hitchhiking, man, the no's you get are people you wouldn't have gotten along with in the first place. They're the people who would have judged you or called you crazy or why you working on a farm. And the people who pick you up, they're like right on. They're like-minded. And so those are the real people you'd get along with anyway. So it's kind of like weaving them out.
Damn right you are. And I can really resonate with what you're saying. Like, I get rejected on a daily basis. I'm always reaching out to new guests to have here on the podcast. And the ones that say no, maybe they're super busy or maybe they're just not the right fit. And so when someone does say yes, it's someone fucking awesome like you, Clark, someone who's very like-minded and we get to spin the yarns. So, it's always worth just, you missed 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah, I think it's Jim Rohn's bit on the law of averages. That's his thing, is like he's old school motivational guy talking about sales and putting yourself out there and network marketing. And his thing is like, knock on as many doors as you can, because the more no's you get 1 out of 10. And then with that 1 out of 10, pretty soon you get better. I'm butchering his impersonation. I haven't done it in a while, but he basically says like, look, you get 1 out of 10 and then you get better. So you get 2 out of 10, then 3 out of 10. And as soon as you get 3 out of 10, if you bat that in baseball in the MLB, they pay you what? Like $30 million or something. You're in the Hall of Fame if you get 4 out of 10. So you can get rejected 6 out of 10 times and you're still set.
And that's right. And I think it's even Mark Cuban who said, you only have to be right once, or, you only need that one connection. You might get rejected by 99, but if you get one connection, like a mentor or something even, it just takes you to another level. But before we get too cliche, before there's self-development people sitting there going, oh yeah, we've heard all this shit before. I really want to touch on journaling. You did mention that, and to get a bit more niche here, because you seem to, you've released courses on this shit and you've been journaling for years. And so I want to know, as someone who's only started journaling about 6 months ago, I really want to find out and dig out, weed out what newbies to journaling can be doing better. So my question for you, Clark, is what are 3 things we can do to become 1% better at journaling?
I love that, dude. Before we get there, what's your journaling practice like right now?
Sure. Great question. So every morning, it's part of my morning routine. I will whip out my journal, and the first thing I write is my daily gratitude. So 3 things I'm grateful for, and I try to give it an emotional connection. The second thing is my affirmations. I'll write down anywhere from 3 to 5 affirmations. And then next I'll do a goals review. So, how I track my progress with my goals for this month. Sometimes I'm a bit lazy and I don't. And then the last thing I have on it is, what are the 80-20 tasks I have to do today? Like what's the one thing I need to do that will make everything easier or irrelevant? And so I generally list about 1 to 3 tasks there.
Beautiful, man. That's awesome. That is the exact right way. And anyone else who does it differently, it's the exact right way. And if you write one word or never touch it again and it didn't resonate with you, it's the right way. So like, and I resonate with what you just said. That's kind of my style too, is using journaling as this tool to better yourself. I mean, we talk all this ideas and we read all these books and we go to the seminars, but if you don't have a ground frame to really build on with that stuff, it'll just dissipate and you can't get it back. So I think the journal is that tool where you can cement these ideas, these concrete concepts, and write them down. And then you look back on it like a year, 2, 3 years later, and you kind of revisit it. And so I call the whole thing coaching yourself, really, is like, you don't need all these books telling you what to do, because if you go down inside, you have some answers. It's amazing. You do know. Or, moreover, if you want to remember things that you caught from mentors or books or experiences, put them in your journal, and you collect this best book you've ever read, is another saying we have on journaling. But yeah, man, I'm just hands off to you for starting that and going forward with it. It sounds like it's really impacting you.
Yeah, and so is yours pretty much identical then, or do you have anything different, like writing down your feelings when you're going through a rough patch or anything like that?
Yeah, so great questions. I never thought I'd be the 25-year-old dude talking about journaling on YouTube, but it kind of like, again, like the shirtless drum videos, right? You try something once, and if it catches on, you keep doing it. And so I posted this one video with a GoPro that was like 30 minutes of me ranting about journaling, and how it's not just a diary that only women can do, or that you hide under your bed about, and you hope your older brother doesn't find, like most people hear when they think of journaling. And they're like, ugh, gross, I don't want to touch that. It's totally the opposite. It's a tool for your personal growth. It's your own way you can coach yourself. So what I say is, if my house was burning down, the one thing I'd grab isn't my MacBook. It'd be my stack of journals, right? Because they're so valuable to me. So anyway, I geek out on it. But I guess the way I do it is, and the way I describe it to anyone, is I just get a sketchbook. All right. It's an 8.5 by 11 sketchbook. I think Pentalic or Canson or someone makes it on Amazon. It's like $11. Okay. And this thing has a couple hundred pages in it, and it's blank. I like the blank stuff because there's no lines, there's no rules with journaling. And then I divide this journal up into 6 sections. And each of these sections kind of serves as a mini journal. So I do one like Brandon does with gratitude, where you write down, once a week, the top 3 things you're grateful for, top 5 things you're grateful for. There's all that research on it. I'm sure your audience knows all about it. And then another one is more business oriented, one of the sections. So that's kind of similar to you, Brandon, with my goals or what I'm working on or what I'm trying to achieve. And then I got some more fun stuff of just like freedom, where I can just write about wherever or unpack hitchhiking stories and what they meant to me, like stuff like that. And you can write it in there. And there's several other sections as well, like one's book notes. So if I get really big ideas when I'm reading all these different books and I don't want them to go away, this is kind of the stuff we underline, asterisk, highlight, I put here. But I think recently, I'm looking at my 2017 journal, and I switch it out every single year. So I have a stack of probably 10 of these. And I just kind of developed a system for fun. And now it's turned into something awesome I look forward to. But I think the biggest thing are the front and the back covers, because these are the places you open to and you look at every single day. So I think like in the front cover, I got quotes, I got big ideas, I got my signature strengths, I got everything in there that I want to see right when I open it. And then the back, I have about 20 different goals. We could dive into that later if you want, on how to write those for your audience and everything like that. In the back there that I'm really working on for that year. So it's like your year's work in one place. I absolutely love it. And that's a little bit inside just kind of how I view journaling.
Mm-hmm. We can dive into how you write your goals. I'm happy to do that now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like the journal has anyone on the show really like talked about this? I don't want to be redundant.
I haven't talked a lot about journaling, and in terms of guests, they haven't talked about journaling really. You know what? I think you're one of the first guys that has really I've delved into about self-development with. Like, I generally have guests where we talk about really unconventional shit. So this is different actually compared to all the other episodes. So go for it.
Awesome. Well, I'm honored, man. This is fun. Yeah, no, I mean, I like your audience is probably all about being 1% better, right? And like improving themselves, and probably very goal oriented people who are striving towards things. And so one of the best things you can do is set goals. And this isn't some stiff, boring airport seminar room like goal setting with your grandpa. I mean, it can be really fun, a really fun process. And so what I like to do is it tends to be around January, right? Or December, but you can do this whenever. I get out blank section in the journal, blank couple sheets of paper, and you just say, all right, look, let's divide my life up into 3 areas. We got 3 things we're going to set goals in, and these, just keep it simple. You got your work goals. These things, these are kind of like your contribution to the world, or whatever your mission is, whatever. So for me, it's like YouTube, right? How many subscribers I want to hit. These are very analytical stuff. These are like specific granular numbers. How much money you want to make. Okay, well, how many months are you going to be making 25K by, 30K by, 40, 50, break it down as specific as you can get here. All right, so your work goals, numbers, and then you have your rest goals. This is all about you. This isn't about what you're putting out into the world necessarily. This is about, like, are you working on anything internally, like health and wellness? For me, it's like getting down to 10% body fat, 175 pounds. Like, that's a big goal I put in there. And then I have smaller goals that kind of stair step on it, or going 30 days where I get 10,000 steps every single day. This is just off the top of my head, by the way. So I don't really know exactly what's in there. And then the last section are your play goals. So what's the stuff you want to do to have fun? Because if any one of these is out of balance, your life's going to kind of suck, right? It's not going to be too fun. You got to have all 3 of these things, like a triangle. And so these play goals, for me, it's like traveling. Where do I want to travel this year? If I can, how can I make that happen? Or for me, it was like hobbies. So taking up fire dancing, right? And learning poi. Or like getting a motorcycle and like actually riding the thing and getting it fixed, or like drumming and touring, and all that stuff goes down here. So that's just a broad overview of the 3 sections I like to set goals in. And I think if it's any more complicated than that, it gets a little overwhelming. So keeping it simple is really important.
Yeah, love it, man. So moving on to YouTube, I'm really curious. You only really started taking your channel seriously, from what I can tell, is, about a year ago or so. And I'm just wondering what triggered that. You started really, you were on the grind.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah. It was a process for sure. I mean, same with you. I love watching your growth and everything you put out.
Yeah. Was there anything that specifically triggered, like, okay, I'm just going to fucking knuckle down on enhancing this quality? And you just sort of went crazy. Like, you grew really fast after having the channel around for 3 or 4 years. So I'm just trying to figure out, was there something specific, or did it just sort of happen?
Yeah, I paid for all my traffic and it just exploded. And great stuff. Cause like, I think what really separated it was kind of like this part-time little hobby thing, which is great if you're just wanting to post a few videos here and there. But ultimately, if you want to turn something into a business, you got to really treat it like one, and you got to give it a full-time attention if you want it to be your full-time gig, right? And so I got really fed up. I said, hey, I've been doing this for 3 years. I've been bouncing around from fitness to traveling to self-development. I got to pick something and go all in. And I think before this, I was kind of a wantrepreneur, right? I love that saying, wantrepreneurs. And we just kind of dabble in things and we jump around and we keep trying things. And my saying before this time last year or 2 years ago or whatever was like, well, I'm just trying a bunch of things until something's successful and then I'll go all in on it. Now I realize after applying it and going all in on something, you follow one path until it's successful. And I think that's a really big differentiation, is you just got to pick something and give it your full-time attention. You got to give it enough time to work. Don't try and do 50 different things because they're all going to fail. So not to be ranting all day, but a straight answer to your question is what changed? What was that mindset shift of like, I've seen so many people talk about what I think I could talk about. I've read all those same books that whoever is on YouTube that I see and follow is talking about, or I've gone to those seminars, or I've had those same thoughts. Why not me? And so I just started putting myself out there more and more and giving it my full-time attention. I really think, to be more specific, like the thing that made my channel take off was filling demands, not trying to create them. So like before this, I was just turning on the camera and talking about whatever I was passionate about at the time. You don't really have a structure. You don't really know any, it's just kind of a random title, but being really, really specific with like marketing tactics. And again, we can go deeper into that with your audience. Just like the marketing tactics about finding things that people want before you even hit record. That was very powerful. And I think that's the secret that really made my channel take off, is I wasn't guessing anymore. I had a specific system in place that I could go to and plug in and then get good results that ultimately led to the channel now at, I don't know, 80 something thousand subscribers. And I think it was growing at like 18,000 subscribers 1 month, which was nuts. It's not all about the numbers, but it feels pretty good when you finally get something working that you were trying to for so long.
Now, listeners listening in, really soak that in. Really soak that in, what Clark's just said, because that is what I found to be like the number one key to succeeding on YouTube. I can honestly say that is the number one thing, feeling that demand before you hit the record button. And it's what I actually teach in my paid coaching, like consulting services. When I've got a client, that's the number one thing I tell them. If there's anything they take away from that call, that's what it is. Feel that demand. And here's what this looks like to the listeners. This is just my perspective and how I approach YouTube and how I got my big growth. And that is, here's what it looks like. You go to the most popular channels in your niche. So let's take, I don't know, bullfighting, for example. That's the first thing that comes to mind. So we go to the 3 biggest bullfighting channels on YouTube. How do we find them? We just, I don't know, type in bullfighting on YouTube and you naturally come across videos that are ranking high, channels that are doing well in the bullfighting niche. So we find 3 big bullfighting YouTube channels. The next thing we do is go to the video.
Brandon, this method's bullshit.
What are you on about? You trying to psych me out?
I couldn't help it.
I resume. So we go to the videos page. And then what we do is we go to the little tab and click, what is it? I don't know.
Most viewed.
Yes. And then, we go to the little fucking filter button and search by most popular. And then what you want to do there is have a look at the top 2 rows of videos that are performing best, especially if they've been uploaded in them, maybe about within a 6-month window. So we want to find out what videos are getting the most attention in the shortest amount of time upon uploading. And you'll find there that maybe there's, I don't know, bullfighting for beginners, 3 tips for equipment or some shit like that. It's a horrible example, but there you go. And then all you have to do is model it. So this is a video, a topic these bullfighter fans are clearly, fond of. So you go to your channel, you don't copy it, don't be one of those guys, but model it. Create something similar, or maybe even make a better version of that video. And then what you want to do is just keep repeating that process. And then over time, you'll pick up on that exponential growth and a lot faster than you would have. And then the next step there is to, now have a look at your own videos once you've got a collection of, say, 50 videos. And then do the same thing. Filter it by most popular, which videos are performing best, and then create more of them. That's like, in my mind, in my experience, the number one key to growing on YouTube. Now, there is more to it. There certainly is more things you can do. No question about it. And Clark does know a few things about that. That's for sure. Because, he's got this Video Breakthrough Academy course. So it's definitely well worth checking out and something I've looked at and contributed to. So I definitely would recommend checking that out. But for those who want to grow a social following, I'm sure you're out there listening right now. Get around that. So, Clark, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
You nailed it, man. That was perfect. That's exactly what I tell people who are just getting started with this to do as well. And I think that you can get so caught up in the overwhelm that the underlying thing is not to psych yourself out too much about all the research, but to just get out there and take action. Like tonight, film your first video. You don't even have to post it. It can just be for you. If you don't have any videos, you got to film them. It's going to take you 50 videos. It's going to take you 100 videos to even get to where if this is going to be something you're passionate about doing yourself or people like or want. I'm sure, Brandon, you get emails from people like, Brandon, I need to grow my YouTube channel. How do I do it? Tell me the secrets. And you go to their channel and they got 2 videos. And I'm like, dude, the secret is to post videos and like actually do it. So that's just something underline asterisk score. I know, Brandon, I think in your comment, or I heard you say somewhere something that stuck with me. It was, commit to doing it for a year.
Yes.
Right? Didn't you say something like that?
Yes.
And I'm like, that's so awesome, because that's the mindset it takes. Like, commit to doing this a year, do that method that Brandon just rolled out for you. Yeah, there's more to it, but you can find videos on there. You can find courses on there. And like, that's the basics, and make sure you're having a good time. You're learning, you don't burn yourself out along the way. And, I can't really think of a better formula. And, people ask like, well, why YouTube? Shouldn't I just wait for the next social platform to really take off and catch on? And YouTube's the second largest search engine in the world right now. It's just booming with free traffic that you can find and bring to your audience, and collect this audience of people who support you, who are kind of your raving fans, who you can get to know and have relationships with and network with, like Brandon and I are doing right now. And you just meet all these cool people. But that's not going to happen if you quit after 2, 10, 20 videos, And so I think committing to it for 6 months, a year, is a really, really important part that can't be missed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you pretty much nailed it. Yes, I do have people emailing me. They say, hey, can you check out my channel? And you know what? They've been around for like 2 months. Maybe they've got 2 to 6 videos, and I'm just like, facepalm. But, I think we've all sort of been there. I used to dabble around in Amazon ebook publishing, and I just didn't take anything seriously. I was jumping from affiliate sites to domain name flipping and all this shit. So we all, I guess, start there. But, you really can accelerate your progress if you take this principle and put it into practice.
And what I like about that too, Brandon, is like, yeah, you were jumping around from all that stuff, but I'm sure a lot of it transferred over to YouTube. It transfers over. And so these skills that you learn and all these different niches that you go after and you pursue or might fail, like, they do carry over. And I've found that YouTube, once you learn that platform of how to get discovered, how to find demand, how to create hit videos, man, it just opens you up to pretty much any platform online. You can take that to blogging. You could take that to podcasting, Amazon FBA, all this stuff. Once you know keywords, once you know tags, once you know images and thumbnails and all this stuff that's like really important. YouTube's kind of the training grounds that does it all. And you don't have to get too advanced with it. You don't have to be geeks like Brandon and myself, but we love this stuff. And it's just a really awesome place to like learn about marketing and what works and kind of be in the market, not just on the sidelines.
For sure. So, Clark, are you happy to move on to the Tim Ferriss questions?
Yeah, let's go wherever you need to go.
Hell yeah, let's do it. Excuse the background noise. I'm living with my family at the moment, and I think my guests are used to it by now, but I've always got doors slamming, pots and saucepans fucking going all over the place, but I don't think it's going to kill anybody. So, yeah, let's dive right into it. What is something you believe, Clark, that other people think is insane?
I've heard this question. I think Peter Thiel had it in 0 to 1. And like, it stumps me every time. Because I let me think on that. I don't know if people don't think this, but not a lot of people do. That I don't believe that you're too late for something. I don't believe that your ship has sailed. And it's kind of sad sometimes. Like, I'll get emails from tons of people. I put my email at the bottom of every video, and I'll get emails from people. And one of the most emailed things I get is that people see not just what I'm doing, but what other people are doing online. And they think the time has come and passed, or they think it's too late, or that because of all these reasons, I have a family, or I have kids, or I'm too old, or I've never done anything X, Y, and Z, or even traveling too. That's just something 20 somethings do, or late teens do, and I can't do it because I have a job. That like, it's never too late to really start something and just give it a shot and give yourself that opportunity. So I think always asking yourself and cutting through that, and that it's never too late to start anything.
Couldn't agree with you more. And then there's a book I read, and in it was a little tale about a man. He's really old. I don't know. He's like 70 or 80 or whatever. And he's, taken up a course at university, and then, he's halfway through it or whatever. And a student comes up to him and goes, why are you studying this? Isn't it too late for you? And he goes, well, I'm going to die anyway. It's inevitable. So whether I do this or not, I'm going to die, right? So why not do it? And that's just a little tale that really stood out to me. Like, there's no disadvantage to at least giving it a shot, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my next question for you, Clark, is what are the books you've given most as a gift? And if you haven't gifted any, then what is your number one recommendation to make us 1% better?
Well, ask my girlfriend. I definitely gift a lot of too many books. um, my friends are like, "Oh, great, another book. Thanks, Clark." I stopped doing it because I don't know if they actually read them or not. But anyway, I guess the ones I would give out the most. One that's kind of uncommon is a weird book to give everyone. So I gave it to my close guy friends. Was The Way of the Superior Man. I just absolutely love that book. I think I've even talked to women who've read it and said, yeah, this is 100% true. I think every guy should read it. And it's about not becoming superior over other dudes or other men, but the superior version of yourself and balancing the whole polarities of like the masculine and the feminine, and really great, no bullshit way of explaining a lot of core concepts in life. So I think Way of the Superior Man is the first one that comes to mind, and definitely one I've given out the most. Another one is The 4-Hour Work Week. I know that's kind of the like the Bible when it comes to entrepreneurship, and it's got some things in there disagree with, and you probably disagree with one or two things in there as well. But that's definitely like the starting grounds that got me inspired to do a lot of the stuff I'm doing now.
Yeah, I can think of one thing I disagree with, and that is that, the 4-hour work week is, achievable for 100% of people, but, it sells, right? Now, with that said, there is some very, valuable stuff in that book for sure.
Totally, man. I know I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't think anyone who's read that and been successful has worked 4 hours a week. And it's kind of, it's tongue in cheek, the whole title thing. But I guess the concept I take from it is less about the actual hours you're logging, and that when you're passionate about something that's working and taking off, it feels like 4 hours. You know what I mean? It just flies by.
Yeah, and another thing, unlike I'm glad you mentioned with The Way of the Superior Man, I think the title is a little misleading, so that can turn some people off. But the reality is, it is a real practical guide that really does benefit you. It's not about being more superior and being the big fucking alpha to outshine your peers. It's nothing like that.
Right.
And, it is a spiritual guide. So it does sort of get what some people might consider woo woo. But if you really just take a step back and just, read it for what it is and read it in practical terms, there's no question, very practical things you can take away into your relationships that can dramatically benefit it. And, I say that from experience in my own relationship. It is incredible.
What are your books, Brandon? I'm curious.
Oh, so what's your question exactly?
Like, gifted most.
Okay, you know what? I don't think I've ever gifted books. I don't know why, but I haven't.
Interesting. Well, okay, if you were to give, like, I came and we hung out, and then you're like, man, I want to give him something. What book would it be?
The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday.
Okay, good.
Straight up. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. That's a whole nother wormhole for me. My passion for books is just crazy. I've got fucking stacks of books all over the house. I'm running out of room to put them in places, and I've got my fucking phone's running out of storage space because I've got so many audio books. I'm drowning in books, Clark. And, I have it's hard to say one, but The Obstacle is a Way. If I had to choose one, that's what it would be. My other three, I could just keep going, but my other three would be Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. One I know you've read. Another one, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. A classic on communication, extremely important. And number three, I don't think I'd necessarily gift this, but it's worthy of a mention, and that is Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming by Stephen LaBarge. And it's a book you don't hear much about, and it is a bit off the beaten path of success and self-development literature, but it is the book that started it all for me. That's what got me into reading. After I had my first lucid dream, after reading that book, I thought, holy crap, I can't believe I just learned to do that from a book. And so that's what spurred me on to the rest, and really, what kickstarted my open-mindedness. And that's why I talk about all these unconventional topics, and I'm really into having an open mind, because I don't believe, going on a tangent here, I don't believe open-mindedness is agreeing with everything. It's simply being receptive to what would seemingly be bizarre ideas, and you might think, oh, that's bullshit. But to me, being open-minded, that's the book that made me open-minded to just listen to people, see what they have to say, and then make my own decision.
Okay. And what was that called again? The
Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming by Stephen LaBarge.
I'll pick that one up and flip through it and stuff. That's sounds interesting.
Yeah, see how you go. It does sound like really woo-woo, but again, this is this open-mindedness thing. It's actually backed by science. The author, he did one of the first experiments that, prove that lucid dreaming is a thing. And the funny thing about lucid dreaming is you can't really show anyone because it all happens at night when you're asleep in your head, and there's no real ways at the moment to show that you're doing it apart from this laboratory experiment that you can do, but no one's got all that equipment. So it's just something that seems to be tossed aside, and that drives me nuts. And that's ultimately something that fuels me to pop people on this podcast who have unconventional ideas and just listen to them,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Good recommendation.
Yeah, so there you go. So moving on to the next question. If you were to put a message on a billboard, Clark, next to a busy highway, what would be on that billboard?
Use your blinker.
That is much needed.
Yeah, especially where people they're not the best drivers over here. I think on a serious note, it'd be what I end everything with, and that is just stop settling, start living. And that's more of a message to myself than anyone else, really. So I would want to see that every single day. I just think pushing yourself and refusing to settle and just everything, always talk about is so valuable to remind yourself on. So that would be my billboard.
Yeah, sure thing. So next question. I love this one. What purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months?
Can I give you two of them?
Yes.
All right. First one, probably not 6 months because I've had it for over a year and just absolutely love this thing. The Fitbit Charge HR. So it does heart rate and everything. That has just really, really made me brutally honest with, steps and everything like that, but sleep. I mean, it's just amazing when you can see your sleep with data and everything like that. So it's really impacted the way I go to bed, wake up, how much I sleep. Okay, was I restless? So I just can't think of a better tool to spend $100 on and invest in your health than like a simple little Fitbit.
Does it just sit on do you clip it onto your pants or your shirt, or what happens?
So they do have some of those that are more of like the pedometer ones, but this one is just a little watch looking thing. It's like a wrist bracelet, and they have the Charge 2 now. I don't have that one yet, but this one does your heart rate. So I like that too because that gives you more data, and I think the more is better. I don't like the look of like the Apple Watches and stuff like that. I think that's a little geeky. Sorry if you got one, but for me personally, I think the Fitbit Charge, it just sits on your wrist and it takes your heart rate throughout the whole day. And then I don't know how it tracks sleep. It must be a tie between heart rate and movement or something along those lines. But I've heard from a couple doctors I know in my family that it's very accurate, and that now, they used to have you go in for sleep studies and they would hook you up for 3 days and it costs couple $1,000 and was extremely inaccurate because you're so uncomfortable. Now they just have you wear one of these and it's pretty much the same thing. So it's just amazing. I'm a huge fan of it.
Okay, killer. And did you say you had a second one as well?
Yes. Oh, yeah. The second one is these little Bluetooth headphones I got. The Skull, I think they're just the Skull Candy ones on Amazon, $50, $60 or something. And man, when you don't have the cord, it's awesome. So I think everything going Bluetooth has just been awesome for me. So like keyboard, mouse pad, monitor, all that stuff.
Rad. All right, thanks for that. I'm curious about this Fitbit thing. I'm gonna search it up. I've heard the term around Fitbit. Yeah. But man, you've really encouraged me to suss that out.
Yeah, especially with your lucid dreaming thing, it might be in tandem. Too bad it doesn't have like a REM cycle that you could look at.
Okay. Cool. I mean, you could even combine it with, what's the app? There's like the sleep app. I don't know what it is. But you can put it next to your bed head or next to you, and it will, track like your REM cycles and your movement in your sleep and give you a detailed graph. I guess the only disadvantage is, I don't know what the disadvantage is. I kind of like the idea of wrapping the Fitbit around your wrist and it just stays with you all the time. So I'd prefer that, but yeah, whatever. We'll move on to the next question, and that is, Clark, what is your favorite documentary or movie?
The first that come to mind, actually, movie and then a documentary. For the documentary stuff in college, I was very into. Speaking of journaling, I had a whole section of my early journals that was titled Conspiracies, and I just loved. Brandon, I loved conspiracy theories. So, all those movies like Zeitgeist that you see on YouTube and like the spirit science ones. And there's so many other ones that, a lot of the stuff has kind of been debunked, but I still loved them for their entertainment value. So I think those conspiracies in general, very fascinating. Anything on that topic. And then for movies, actually, I've heard a lot of mixed opinions from other people, and they hear this is one of my favorite movies. Walter Mitty, Secret Life of Walter Mitty, man. Like the new one with Ben Stiller and everything. I think it came out 2 years ago, and that just it's a simple movie. It's not meant to do anything except just make you inspired to get out there and kick ass. So that one. If you do want to think, I think The Fountain. Have you seen that movie, Brandon?
No, I heard Mark Cuban mention it though.
Really? The Fountain?
No. Okay, maybe I'm making a mistake here. I think Mark Cuban said The Fountainhead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a different one. The Fountainhead's good. But The Fountain is, I think, Darren Aronofsky. He did Requiem for a Dream. Did he do Fight Club? I can't remember. Maybe it's some tie to it. He's done some really good movies. But The Fountain, it's a great, great, great movie. You would love this thing. It's all about it's got 3 storylines built within it, and one is kind of like the astral realm where he's like in a tree and space and the nebula. It's just an amazing film. And the more times I watch it, I think the better I understand it, and it teaches you a lot about. It taught me a lot about different aspects. So that was a great movie.
Radical. Yeah, I just wrote it down. And when I'm feeling cognitively impaired after a long day of work, I love to not really work. I don't consider it work, doing what I love. But when in the evening, sometimes I'll just flick on a documentary or a movie. So I've written that down and I'm looking forward to it. So thanks for that recommendation. There's another thing I want to touch on, and that is you mentioned you are really into conspiracy theories. And then, it's a controversial subject, no doubt. And I think it's interesting how you're like, oh yeah, they've been debunked now. But, what I think when I think of conspiracy theorists, some dedicate their whole lives to proving these conspiracy theories, even when confronted with all the evidence that, it's bullshit. So, just with that said, what is your current view on conspiracy theories now?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something I've been thinking about too. 'Cause I have a grandma, God love her. She's the last existing grandparent, but she's kind of nuts when it comes to this stuff. And that's, I guess, what retired people in their 80s and 90s do when they have the internet that they never had. They just sit in their trailer and they just watch all day, sun up to sundown, conspiracies, Alex Jones, InfoWars, all that stuff. And I realized with her that okay, why does she actually think there's gray people in the center of the earth? Why does she actually think Michelle Obama is actually Michael Obama and it's a conspiracy? And I realized that once you're open to one conspiracy that has maybe some evidence more than the others, it tends to open you up to all of them. And you think they're all true, or you think they all have that equal evidence. And so that was the thing I realized that kind of off put me was I didn't want to become a nut who was open to everything. Like you were talking about how open-mindedness can actually hurt you and not always help you. So you need to put up some walls. So I think maybe I just put up the walls with conspiracies. I'm definitely open to the alternative. I always love that. Okay, who else has opinions? What are they saying? Ooh, it's totally different. Let's hear what they have to say. Or it might be out there. So the mystery aspect of it definitely intrigues me. So I'm definitely open to it. I never discount them as conspiracies without hearing at least a couple sides. Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, man. I'd say something similar, and that is I'm definitely always open to hearing what the other side is. I don't really like the label conspiracy theory, but again, it's something I don't just immediately shrug off. But at the same time, I do have my rational brain come in and put up some walls, because I think you need a bit of both.
Right. And that's a good point too. Especially when it comes to, not to go too deep, this could be a 3-hour podcast on this alone, but in America with the government, there's tons of conspiracies about, Illuminati and banks and all this stuff. And like, there's almost some cigar filled room where there's like 5 people wringing their hands, and like, there's like gambling and hookers in the background, and they like control the shots. And like, I don't think that actually exists. I think that's a little too out there, and people just aren't smart enough to keep things a secret like that. But there's people out there who like walk around with their entire life is that worldview, is like, there's people running this show. I don't have a say in it either way, so I give up. And they go through life just mad and frustrated, and like they lack all control altogether. I'm like, that's such a terrible way to live, So I think like there's some conspiracies that are very, very damaging, especially the ones that like put everything outside of your control. So my little public service announcement to my grandma listening.
Yeah, sure thing. I've reached out to an author who studies like the human brain, and particularly, people who have these really strong, hardcore beliefs that are fully convinced that, conspiracy theories, that they all are true, and, even when confronted with evidence, they refute it. And I just have no idea what this guy's going to say. He's wrote a book called Why We Believe What We Believe. And he studies the brain and why we believe that shit. So we're going to have him on the podcast. It will just be interesting to draw some ties. And I look forward to actually asking this guy about his opinion on conspiracy theories. And then what we can do is like listen to both podcasts and then compare them. It'll just be interesting to see.
I would love to hear that, dude. I mean, I spend still probably 10 hours a week just thinking and researching about conspiracies. I don't know why. It's just a hobby. Again, I love them. So fascinating stuff.
All right, sure thing. So next question for you, Clark. What's the best or most worthwhile investment you've made? Now, this could be an investment of money, time, energy, or any other resource.
I think 2 things. The first one that comes to mind was traveling, just those whole trips of like, especially going to Hawaii, that only costs a plane ticket really. And you work on the farms for free, and you don't get it for free. You have to work backbreaking labor sometimes for rice and beans. But hey, the experience of that and trusting yourself and coming out of it with those lessons, I think that's what it's all about. So I think that of time, that was definitely worthwhile. And then I don't really have a specific course online, but I think as soon as I stopped trying to get things for free online and I started paying for them, I started paying for online courses that would teach me marketing or teach me how to write a book or teach me, about psychology or something. That was really valuable, man, because like I just valued it more when I started to pay for things. And then moreover too, I'm like, well, I'm going to have courses one day. So why am I going to charge people money if I'm not willing to pay myself and invest in myself? And then I took it a step further and said, hey, I just paid 30 grand in college debt to go to a 4-year university for a degree I'm not using. And I'm not willing to pay $400, $500, $600 for an online course. Like, what's wrong here that I would use every single day? So not to go on a tangent with you, man, but like, I'd say paying for education and traveling were the 2 best things I've ever done for my self-development.
Fantastic. Love it. Next question. What are your morning rituals, Clark?
Good question. I've been experimenting with having 0.
What the hell? Okay, I want to hear more.
Yeah. I used to be the guy who would set an alarm for 6:30, wake up, meditate. Okay. And then as soon as I did that, journal, gratitude. As soon as I did that, read. And then like it was 10 o'clock and I got pretty much nothing done. And I was already kind of burnt out with all my willpower going to just forcing myself to do this routine. So I was just like honest with myself saying, I'm just going to try the opposite. What if I did the opposite? And so now I don't set an alarm. Now I get up and just have coffee. Now I don't meditate. Now I don't journal until I feel like it. And I can honestly say I'm like 3 times happier. I'm less stressed and I probably get a lot more done. I launched an entire course with that same system. I put out 2 videos a week with that same system. I still am even more productive. And like, I don't miss any of that stuff necessarily. So I think like, even if 50 gurus give you that spiel on meditate and wake up and do all X, Y, and Z, eat organic, all this stuff, like, listen to yourself. And what if you did the opposite, and experiment and see if you actually get more done or not.
Wow, that's bizarre. I've never heard such a thing. Okay, yeah, it's funny because I'm exactly that guy who does get up in the morning. I don't set an alarm, but the first thing I do as soon as I wake up is I run through my process. So I want to dig this out a bit further. With your morning routine, how long did you commit to,
or lack thereof of routine?
Yeah. Well, when you had a morning routine, like how long did you commit to building a particular habit, like journaling, for example, meditation, for example?
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I read that book, The Miracle Morning, right? Or The Morning Miracle or something like that. Have you read that one?
Yeah, by Hal Elrod.
Yeah, and it breaks it down into like 7 things you need to do every day. And I'm sure it works great for a lot of people and, good for him and seems like an awesome dude. But that just stressed me out, just having like 7 things and moving on and setting timers. And it's like, I'm just trying to wake up with some coffee, man. Like, why do I have to have 7 things going? So, but I do think, to answer the question, I committed to 90 days of doing that. Or
okay,
I might have even been 100. But even that, I drew out 100 little check boxes in my journal, and every day I would check one off. And I did that for 100 days straight with the meditating, with the journaling, with the stuff. I realized, dude, by like day 20, my journaling practice went from something I loved to something I really kind of dreaded. And it was like almost like I was at work writing things down I was grateful for. And I'm like, well, this isn't working. I'm just like trees, birds, life. Okay, move on. Like, all right, 2 push-ups, move on. And I just try and breeze past this. So I think like really resonating and listening to yourself and being okay, like not applying some of the advice that's out there can make you a lot happier.
Wow, this has been some incredible discussion. I consider him my mentor and one of my great friends, and he's an entrepreneur. And I was gobsmacked when I heard from him that, he didn't really have a morning routine, yet he was doing super well in his business. And I'm thinking, what the hell? I've read all these success guys in the success literature. They all say to have a morning routine. And then my mentor, doesn't even have one and he's achieving all the success. And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? So I think it's an important point to really listen to yourself, no question. And I have, in fact, stumbled across that exact same thing with the journaling, particularly the gratitude section. Like, if you don't keep it fresh, I don't know, just after a while, it tends to become this mechanical thing where you're like, oh, fuck, I gotta be grateful for another 3 things. I can't use what I had yesterday. I don't know. And then I look across from the table, I go, I'm grateful for that picture frame. So I definitely have experienced that. So I know what you mean there. However, the rest of my morning routine, just for me personally, works, brilliantly. I have a cold shower. I make a smoothie every single morning and I love doing it. But the key thing here is I love doing what I do. So I think that's why it works for me. Whereas with you, Clark, you came to resent some of that shit despite putting in, a whole streak of days towards it. So some really interesting stuff there.
And I can't even do a cold shower to save my life.
Nah.
You got some balls, Brandon.
Yeah, bro. I live for that discomfort. I'm thinking if I just do this first thing in the morning, it is a bitch. It is an absolute bitch, but that's kind of what I love and hate about it. Because, everything just becomes easier throughout the rest of the day once I do that one thing.
Yeah, there's something about the shower. Like, I'm not a cold shower guy. I wish I was. I wish I was like you, an animal who could sit in there and do it or push myself to do it. I know it's still not easy, probably.
No.
I think if there was a pool, like a cold pool, where you're all in right away, I could definitely do that. Like, if I go to a Russian spa and they got that. I love that cold plunge. But, like, there's something about a shower where you're not all the way in, I just...
Yeah, man. It's like when people try cold showers for the first time. No, forget I said that. So just the other day, it's like fucking winter here in Australia. Extremely cold. You wouldn't think it, but yes, we do get cold storms in Australia. Not fucking storms. It just gets cold, okay? And the pipes were frozen up to the shower. And so when I went to turn on the shower the other morning, it was just trickling. That trickling feeling? Just And it was so freezing cold. And I'm like, oh, I guess that means no shower. And I'm like, nah, fuck it. I'm going to do it. So what was the worst thing about it was that it was just trickling. So I put my back under there, my spine, and I just fucking seized up. And it's just a horrible feeling having just this little trickle over your body compared to doing the whole thing. Like full immersion, you know, it's still painful, but it's better because your whole body's like equalized and it feels great. Well, not great, but better than a fucking little trickle. Just, I don't know how to describe it. You try in the winter, go into your cold shower and just let it trickle a little bit and let it trickle over and you'll see what I mean.
A person who derives sexual gratification from their own pain or humiliation. All right, there you go.
That's how I roll. That's how I roll here. South Aussie. Anyway, next question. Clark, when you think of the word successful, who's the first person that comes to mind and why?
Oh, man. I've heard these same questions and I love them. And like, I never thought I'd have to answer them. So, you know what? I saw a little snippet of Mike Rowe, you know, the guy from Dirty Jobs.
I don't, but go on.
His whole show was like going to the dirtiest blue collar jobs in America, in the United States, and saying, hey, like, what's your day look like? And he would follow them around. And I mean, it pretty much ends exactly the same every episode. He finds himself in a small sludgy hole. Like, that's always what it is. But like the people, and I heard an interview with him talking about it, like these people started getting really passionate about their jobs no matter what. And it was like sucking shit out of septic tanks. And they were super passionate and they'd light up and they'd go for
What?
it. So like, to me, they're successful. You know what I mean? Like their definition of success matches what they're doing. They've made it work. They're passionate about it and they're having a good time. And like something I would write off as like, dude, I would never want to do that no matter how much money you paid me. They found a way to turn it into a job where like it's very needed. People need them and they like give a service that not many people want to do. And they find purpose in it and meaning. And they have everything that the definition of success would fit, at least when it comes to work, you know? So in terms of a career, like those kind of like blue collar jobs that people have that they're really passionate about that are not as glamorous, to me, that is successful.
Sure thing. As bizarre as it sounds, like, you know, when it comes to success, you really got to define it for yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, like people who are happy with where they're at, it's something I've really admired recently is like, you know, I talk about stop settling, start living, and get emails from people who are like, either they just binge watched every single video I did and Brandon did and Tony Robbins and like read 50 personal development books and drank like 10 cups of coffee, and they're like typing in all caps and it's like super overwhelming. It's just like, dude, take a few deep breaths and like, it's going to be okay. And just be honest with where you're at. Like that whole in the moment thing and not always trying to strive, achieve, because that comes back to bite you in the butt as dissatisfaction. And balancing the two of like, you know, we're all these people listening to this call right now. If you're still with us, then you're like Brandon and I. You're someone who wants to improve your life. You're someone who wants to be better 1% every day, keep striving for things. But we also got to balance that with like being okay where we're at. And looking at everything around us and not letting it just pass us by. Because man, it goes really fast. So that's my little message to myself, at least, is like balancing the two. And so I think success means someone who can successfully balance the striving and the being present.
Wise words. Next question. Do you have a quote you live your life by or think of often?
Let me pull my my journal out. I mean, I know one off the top of my head. I just want to look real quick. Got it sitting right here. There's so many, Brandon. All right. The biggest concept I've been obsessed with, and it's just not even a quote, it's just a number. It's 32,850. That is the amount of days you have from birth until 90 years old. So if you're like in your 20s, like myself, that's like 23,000 days left till 90. And then if you're in the United States, you don't even live to 90 a lot of times. I think the average life expectancy is what, like 78? So that number keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And so like to go on that striving path we were just talking about, the whole stop settling, start living, put a number to how many days you got left till 90. I can't think of a better motivator than that. And like seeing that number every single day and being like, wow, if I had $1 for every day I lived in the future, that expression, I'd only have $20,000. Like, great, could live in a third world country on $2 a day for that, but like just and attributing some value to it, you know what I mean? So it's like a real number. So I think that in the front of my journal, how many days I got till I'm 90, that's kind of the quote I live by.
Brilliant. So the next one is generally challenging for most guests, but see how you go. What topic would you speak about if you were asked to give a TED Talk on something outside of your main area of expertise?
It'd be on conspiracies, Brandon. No, I'm kidding.
That was my guess. I thought I saw it coming.
No way. I need to brush up on them. I've been too dormant for the past couple months. I think it would probably be on music and drums, and that's something I didn't give up on, but it's been dormant for a while, and I got this great opportunity coming up. I can't talk about too much because I don't know if it's been announced yet by the people, but I'll be going on tour with a band for like 2 months, and it's just something that kind of happened. I can't wait to talk about it when it's all hammered out. But anyway, drums have just been such a huge part of my life, and music, and connecting through that way. So that would be the topic.
Yeah, good ads. So we're going to start wrapping up now. I just want to give you this final opportunity to let our listeners know where we can find you and your stuff on the world of the internet.
Yeah, awesome, man. So I think the main place is just YouTube. That's the place I would send people on. If they're on there, subscribe. You can also go to refusingtosettle.com if you want to get on my email list. I think you get a free book with that. The 11 questions change your life. Do that in your journal. Do that in your phone. Do that in your car, wherever. It's just good stuff if you like the topic.
If you'd like 3 gold nuggets from the book I'm currently reading, packed into a short, entertaining, weekly email, then head to brandonnankivell.com/subscribe. This is also the best way to interact with me and keep up with what I'm doing. Again, head to brandonnankivell.com/subscribe. As usual, thank you for listening, my friends. I release new episodes every week. Make sure you don't miss one by subscribing. It's super easy and means a lot to me. Go to iTunes, search for The 1% Show, and click subscribe. Once again, I'm your host, Brandon Nankivell, and I'll see you in the next episode.